The following program paid for by Rosenberg Financial Group. Providing live finance advice since 1993. It's time for Your Money with Sherri Goss, Randy Goss, and Becca Wilton. To participate in today's program, call 478-742-0940 with your financial questions and comments. And now, live from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Good morning, Middle Georgia, and welcome to Your Money. We are Randy and Sherri Goss, and we're with Rosenberg Financial Group. And the main thing we do is we manage people's retirement and help them with their retirement planning. So if you're looking for a retirement advisor, please give us a call at 478-922-8100. We have offices in Macon and Warner Robins, and you can learn more about us by visiting our website at retirerelax.com. There's a lot of good information on there. There's the special reports we always talk about. There's the life book, and there's also recordings of our past radio shows. The number to call in today is 478-742-0940, and we're here to take your calls about all things financial. And if you don't want to call, just email us at support@rfmoney.com.
Excellente. So Becca is out at the Alzheimer's Run in Warner Robins with Gretchen. They have a table, and they're going to hand out literature, and she's going to run in the race. But anyways, they're out having a good time, meeting a lot of people and participating in that. And what we're trying to do, we're the main sponsor for the Alzheimer's Run this year, and I want this to become something big that we participate in, not just in the run, but in education, because Alzheimer's and dementia is just a big deal. A lot of people out there have a lot of clients that are dealing with it.
Yep.
My own family, my father had it the last 2 years of his life, not Alzheimer's, but dementia. And it caused him to make some poor choices living independently that caused him to die. And so this affects a lot of us. Your father had it.
Yep.
Pretty bad. So we're going to start doing some educational programs, and I'm thinking we'll do some live seminars that are going to be free and then record them in chunks and put them on our website. And so you'll be hearing more about that, because this is something important that you could pass on to people that you know and care about and help. So more education is better.
Yep.
Anyways, so market update. S&P 500 was at 45.45 yesterday, so it's still down 5% year to date. The VIX, though, is dropping a little bit. It's just under 20, moving in the right direction. And oil was down to $99 a barrel yesterday at close.
And it was at a high about 123 this last week.
It was so crazy. The price, everything's just volatile. So gas prices locally, I'm driving around. When I went to the gym, just going a few miles to the gym from the office, I noticed a 40-cent difference in gas prices. And so I had this idea to just type in the search bar on my computer, local gas prices near me today. And I typed it in, and a map popped up, and it had a list of all the gas stations in our 5-mile radius around our office. And
there's a website called gasbuddy.com.
Don't do it.
Don't go that one?
I don't subscribe to it, because Becca talked about it the other day, and what it is they're going to track you. You're going to have to click on where you want to go to get the discount, and so they're tracking you, and they're tracking what you do, how much you pay, and then they're going to follow up with you with garbage spam. So that's what we learned from her experimenting with that, because I thought that was a good idea, but I don't want another app that's tracking me and looking at where I am.
Well, that's good information.
But if you just, at your computer, at your house, type in local gas prices near me today, a map literally pops up, and you can look, and in the left-hand side, it's like MapQuest. It looks just like MapQuest. And on the left-hand side, it lists all the stores, all the stations, and the price. And so there is a difference in price on this website. Murphy Oil was $3.43 a gallon yesterday. Shell was $3.90. That's a huge 47% difference.
Right.
That is ginormous. So I looked at my car. My car gets 11. I can put 11 gallons of gas in my car. That's a $5.17 difference if I just went from one place to another. Your truck, 27-gallon tank, that's a $12.69 difference.
Starts turning into real money.
That's like what? 3 meals out?
Right.
Depending on what you eat. So Please look at that and pay attention to the prices, and don't just fill up where it's convenient and close to you. Because what I find is you get into the poor neighborhoods, the price is way higher than a mile away. And so if you just, I drive down this road on my way to work, that's where I fill up. You got to stop thinking like that.
Yeah, it's not just the poor neighborhoods either, because we see it right there at 96 and Moody Road.
At major intersections.
Yep.
Major intersections are bad. And so I guess that their retail is probably higher.
And we have an article, we're going to talk about that later on, and why the gas prices are the way they are.
So Kemp is trying to repeal the Georgia gas tax, which would save us 29 cents a gallon. Through the end of May. It has not passed yet. I don't know what the holdup is, and maybe it's really difficult to do that. And then yesterday I was reading that Biden threw that out there, that we could repeal the gas tax nationwide, which puts us in a hole when it comes to repairs. So they kind of threw that out the window because you got to have reserves.
Right.
Reserves are important for the rainy days.
Those taxes are going somewhere to support something.
Yeah. Let me see. U.S. employers added 431,000 jobs in March. Unemployment is down to 3.6%. The numbers put the Fed on track to raise interest rates again in May, so don't be surprised about that. Let me see here. Oh, and for our listener whose taxes from 2021, wait a minute. No, his taxes are from 2020, have not been completed. The IRS office in Ogden, Utah just had a job fair and hired 5,000 people. They have offices in Texas and Missouri. They're offering $15.61 an hour, and none of it's electronic. It's all paper files. So they're having to go through. Someone has to sit there with a red pen and circle all the important numbers on the return, and then they give it to somebody to input it into the system. And they said it's mind-numbingly horrifying as far as a job goes.
I can only imagine.
You're sitting there just with a red pen circling things. And so they're having a hard time.
For $15 an hour, I mean, there's a lot of people sit there and do that all day long.
I would think so. Maybe you could train a monkey to do it. I don't know. Maybe we should figure out a better system. Maybe we should scan it in and have it automatically do something.
Right.
I feel like they're way behind.
All the technology that's out there, it seems like they could catch up.
So they're hoping to get caught up by the end of the year. So maybe you'll get your refund by Christmas. Let me see. They're competing with Amazon, Target, FedEx, and McDonald's for these employees because people,
right? I
mean, go there, make the same price, and walk around.
I mean, the
stock a shelf.
I mean, the employment figures came out, and we're basically at full employment right now,
right.
3.6. So that's good. Hey, before we go on, were you done with that?
Sure.
Okay. Before we go on, we have a job announcement. So if you know somebody that's looking for a receptionist level job, have them give us a call at the office at 478-922-8100. We're losing one of our star employees, and she is going back to nursing school. But we need somebody that's familiar with IT and social media and has strong interpersonal skills. I know that wraps a lot into one little job description, but I guess the interview will really identify the strong person. So if you have anybody that's looking for a job, have them give us a call full time. Yep.
And it's a great place to work because we have really nice clients. I mean, it's just a wonderful place to work. When she told us, it just broke my heart because she is so special and she has been such a great addition to our team.
She has been.
That I hate losing her, but I'm really excited for her future.
Yep.
She's doing the right thing.
She's
moving forward in her life. All right. So the yield curve just curved. That's funny. The yield curve just inverted. It still isn't time to worry, and this is from Barron's. So it doesn't mean that a recession is on the way, but it is part of a broader trend pointing to slowing economic growth. Some short-term treasuries have been yielding more than long-term bonds, a market condition known as a yield curve inversion. But researchers have found that the curve needs to remain inverted for a period, weeks or months, depending on whom you ask, before it is a reliable recession indicator. When it does invert persistently, it has been strikingly accurate as an indicator of economic activity, as researchers at the San Francisco Fed wrote in 2018. Strategists make the point that recession definitely isn't imminent when the yield curve inverts because it usually takes anywhere from 12 to 24 months for the economy to contract, and recessions following curve inversions aren't necessarily guaranteed either. The yield curve primarily captures expectations for Fed policy and inflation, they say. And while the Fed often cuts because of a recession. It may also cut rates to avoid one. So I mention all of this because it's a big headline.
It is.
And so here's the deal. The news has to be scary to get your attention so that you'll click on an article because they're selling advertising. I've talked about this a million times. This is just one more thing that they use to make you break out in a sweat and worry about your portfolio. And if you're worried about your portfolio, get with somebody that's going to manage it like we do, so you don't have to sit there worrying about it every day and know that somebody else is watching it. Or just stop looking at it and just let it ride. You've got to choose one or the other. You can't be in freak out mode every time you see something article like this in the media, because it's going to drive you crazy and you're going to be miserable.
And the 2-year, 10-year inversion, that's happened many times throughout the stock market's history, and it is a pretty good indicator that things are not really where they need to be going forward, and that's what the Fed is out there to try to do, is to get things back on track. But despite the strong track record for predicting recessions, some strategists have warned that more context is needed when you're looking at this year's 210 inversion. And there was J.P. Morgan came out and said this last week that there's a lot more data that goes into this now because of the global events and everything that are going on. And then the Bank of America Global Research wrote that a yield curve inversion would be a distraction, and that's all they're calling it at this point. So, and they say 12 to 18 months after this inverse is when a recession would probably happen, if it's going to happen at all. But there's a lot of time between now and then.
Right. So the central bank could also cut rates before a recession. So this is Jerome Powell. He says, if growth begins to slow, some of the Fed's urgency to tighten will also fade. Soft landings necessitate a Fed that is nimble and willing to reverse course at a later date. So it's not like it's baked in. It's not like they have to do this. It's a choice. And so they'll have their meetings and they make a choice, and then they'll do what they're going to do. But they're going to do it based on the economy and all the numbers and everything else that's going on in the world.
That's right.
All righty. Let me see here. Lessons from the first quarter. It's a good article.
It's great.
So a couple of headlines. The U.S. added 431,000 jobs in March, which was below estimates of 490. However, the unemployment rate fell to 3.6%. Last month's job numbers came in closer to projections than we've seen in months. I suspect, and this is from one of the people that we subscribe to, he says, I suspect that's why stocks didn't make a big move following the announcement, but that's not a major concern. What the results mean for the Fed and the economy is much more important. The unemployment rate is now at a level that is often considered full employment. That's huge. It means if you're willing and able to work, you should be able to find a job. It's also worth noting that wages are up 5.6% over the past 12 months. That's a bit lower than the inflation rate, but outside of an outlier spike that occurred just after the pandemic began, is the highest reading we've seen in 15 years. At the bottom line, jobs report tells a much bigger story than just a headline number. It's a story that involves higher interest rates near in the future, and that's only because the economy is strong enough to handle it. Headline number 2, the first quarter of 2022 ended yesterday, and all three major stock indexes booked their worst quarterly losses in 2 years. Nasdaq was off 9%. Let's talk about what the second quarter and the rest of 22 could have in store for us. Corporate profits are on pace to have their best year ever. S&P 500 earnings are expected to rise about 8%. That's a slower pace than what we saw in 2021, but it remains solid and has still pushed profits to historic levels. The U.S. economy, as measured by the GDP, is forecast to grow between 3 and 4% this year. Both strong profits and robust overall growth point to higher stock prices through the final quarters of 2022. And while inflation remains near a 40-year high, rising interest rates should help lower consumer prices. All this points to a bullish future. Stock prices should be higher in the coming months. So, good news,
That's
not
good
only
news.
bad news.
That's right. This is a great article, Sherri, that we stumbled across. We're both struggling a little bit. All right, it's called The Slumbering Giant is Opening His Wallet. 2 years ago, slippers went stratospheric. Normally they sell in cycles like during the winter. Then sales taper off during the warmer months. But in 2020, it was different. Slipper sales...
Say that three times fast.
Slipper sales, almost doubled in 2019. The COVID-19 pandemic was in full swing. Folks were in no hurry to leave their homes, and they were dressing for leisure. All I can remember from that is everyone who was doing the Zoom videos with shirts on and no pants. So, anyway, they were dressing for leisure, streaming streaming entertainment, and saving their cash. And let's see here. But today, the big thaw is coming to the global markets. Travel plans are on the rise, spending is back, and the slumbering giant is about to return with a new buying power. Its demographic is a demographic that has stayed quiet during the pandemic reopening. These folks prefer to play it safe while other consumers rejoined the world in person. Let's see here. Older Americans are about to open their wallets to what it's all about. Older Americans have been the most cautious since the start of the pandemic. One way to see this is the Spending Momentum Index, which is a measure of consumer spending from Visa. The SMI measures the share of Visa cards that has increased or decreased and their spending compared to the same period from the previous year. The SMI higher than 100 shows strong spending momentum from the prior year, and if it's below it, it's less. And from March 20th, 2022, the 25 to 45-year-old...
March 2020 to 2022.
March 20 to January 2022. Yeah. The 25 to 44-year-old demographic had an average spending momentum of 106. So that's good. And then the 45 to 64-year-olds showed an average spending of 101. However, the spending momentum of Americans 65 and up actually fell, and theirs was only 97.6.
Which is what I see.
Yes.
That's what I see all day long.
And it makes sense, too. The older folks were the most at risk of severe illness, so they were doing less than anyone, and good for them. That's changing, though. Visa's newest data suggests that the purse strings are loosening. This February, the older demographics leapfrogged 45 to 64-year-olds. The older consumers are spending once again. All we know is that the stocks and the real estate went on a tear in 2021, But what you may not know is that between the fall and the winter, these assets pushed the U.S. households' net worth up by $5.3 trillion. The total household net worth surged to a record $150 trillion. That's big. Roughly 41% of this money is in the hands of those 65 and older. So, travel is going to be a big winner, and according to AARP, 67% of adults 50 and older are planning a trip in 2022, and hopefully you're one of them. But, vacation spending is only just the beginning. So, get ready is what this article is all about, because they believe that once this money is unleashed in the economy, you're going to see the stock market take off again.
So in the last 3 weeks ago, I had two elderly ladies, widows, who live independently, are in good health. They came to see me for the first time in forever. And they had not been out of their house since COVID hit. They saw me, and then they went across to the Macon office. They saw me, and then they went to Dillard's to go shopping because they hadn't been shopping in 2 years. Last week, I saw two more people in the same exact situation. Right. They had not left their house until last week. And then the last week and this week, I have seen 4 clients that have trips planned to Greece, to Europe, to cruises, to Alaska. They're booking trips because you can book a trip now and not worry about COVID so much. But, and the interesting thing to me, so Friday I looked at the COVID numbers. Hospitalizations hit a pandemic low last week. There's only 16,000 people in the entire United States that are hospitalized because of COVID.
That's a big change.
That's huge. So, people are going to get out and start spending and traveling and seeing their family for the first time in 2 years, which is good. Anyways, so on Thursday, the market was down, and we were both looking at it going, what on earth is wrong with this picture? Because people are starting to spend money again. People are getting out. What's the problem? So traders are pointing to a massive quarterly options trade on Thursday, and I think this is what's been part of the last 7 weeks of volatility in the market. There's been a huge volatility, and we've talked about it before, but we've seen days where a company will drop 50% in value in one day.
Right.
And that's not normal. So, did you want to read this?
No, go ahead.
Traders are pointing to a massive quarterly options trade on Thursday, they said, was from J.P. Morgan as one reason why the stock market took a nosedive late in the day, as options flows linked to the trade exacerbated market weaknesses. The S&P 500 index fell 1.2% in the last hour of trading on Thursday, marking the largest hourly drop for the index in more than 3 weeks.
Yeah, I've been watching the markets every day, and what I see some days is just mind-boggling. 800-plus point swings.
Yeah.
And a lot of it does happen in the last hour of the day. And it's very strange to watch.
The way the trade is structured means when the market starts to fall, options dealers, typically big financial institutions who facilitate trading but seek to remain market neutral, would have been forced to sell an increasing number of stock futures, thereby aggravating the sell-off. Markets have had a roller coaster quarter due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, volatile commodity prices, and the U.S. Federal Reserve starting to hike. So the other one is the price of oil. The price of oil is swinging 10% in a day,
right,
or more. I mean, it doesn't. We've never had this before. It doesn't make any sense. So that probably is affecting them too. The trade, which took place shortly before 11 a.m., was a large collar option, COLLAR, like a dog collar, options trade involving the sale of about 44,000 June calls and the purchase of an identical number of June put spreads that would pay up if the S&P 500 were to decline more than 5% from its current level. So you're betting. You're betting on the market.
And what this is, these are algorithms. They're computer-generated programs that when they hit certain limits, they sell.
Yes.
And what happens is the people who are not part of the big machine, they see this happening and they
react
and they sell.
Yes. A collar is an options hedging strategy involving a combination of puts and calls. The trade also involved the sale of about 24,800 calls linked to the 4,300 level on the S&P 500, set to expire at the end of Thursday's session as a way to guard against any sharp moves in the market during trading. Traders pointed to the $19 billion J.P. Morgan Hedged Equity Fund as being behind the moves. The fund, which holds a basket of S&P 500 stocks along with options on the benchmark index and resets hedges once a quarter. So this online electronic trading is a big problem because it can create hysteria.
That's right.
And people can react to it, and it can cause other triggers to then...
And well, there's a thing called endogenous risk, and that basically is exactly what we're talking about in the formalized language of things. That when people see things that are not rational and they go ahead and react to it anyway, it's one of the biggest risks that an investor can face. So, be careful when you're looking at what's going on out there. Try to understand it before you go dumping stocks and taking losses on things that you don't need to.
Yeah, it's I don't know where this is all headed, but it creates havoc for us because we manage money for people using individual stocks, and so it causes things to go down that don't make any sense. It causes entire sectors to go down that don't make any sense. And we're sitting there looking at it going, why? Why is this happening? There's no reason for it. And then 2 days later, then you get an explanation of what was going on. Right.
But if usually when we're sitting there watching it and you go, okay, this made no sense. There's no rational reason for this to be trading this way. We don't succumb to the knee-jerk reaction.
We can't, because then you really tie yourself up into a bind.
Right.
Anyway, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the Strategic Petroleum Reserve,
which I know is right on the top of everybody's list to talk about today.
Right. So Biden announced Thursday the daily release of 1 million barrels of oil from the country's reserves for the next 6 months as a way to bring down gas prices that have been breaking records. It could ultimately mean 180 million extra barrels of oil released to the market through early fall. The plan also calls for increased domestic oil production, which we've talked about that. You can't just flip a switch on that one. Crude oil accounts for almost 2/3 of the price in a gallon of gas. Market volatility makes it tricky to say with great certainty, but the cost savings might be 5 to 10 cents a gallon in a matter of weeks. How long prices could stay that way would be an open question. Some other headline would completely negate the reserve release. Assuming everything in the global oil market stays the same and every single penny of savings was passed along to drivers, the average gallon price could fall 40 to 50 cents, according to another expert, but he thinks that's a stretch. But neither of these experts viewed these potential savings estimates as a win for drivers or the country. Even with nearly 90 million barrels already released from the reserve since July of 2020, gas prices have only gone up. Any of the releases are one-time feel-good measures to mitigate supply disruption. It does nothing to increase supply on a long-term basis and get more oil out of the ground. And then this morning, I was on the news, Europe, Canada, Mexico, Japan, and South Korea are all going to announce releasing reserves next week, a total of 1.5 billion gallons globally.
Wow.
to be released to cut prices. And my concern is security. this is not what this reserve is for. That's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is not to use it to reduce gas prices because the consumer is uncomfortable. It's supposed to be for emergency usage.
Well,
and so
I agree with you, but I also say there's a lot of folks out there that could use that cost savings, at the pump right now. So, but hey, if y'all have an opinion on this, give us a call at 742-0940. I think 478-742-0940.
And we are at the halftime mark. Do you have your little sheet? Randy's not used to doing the show.
Right. It's good to be back, but man, I tell you, it takes some getting used to. Anyway, we're at the halftime, and you've been listening to Randy and Sherri Goss, and we're with Rosenberg Financial Group, and you can call in today. The number is 478-742-0940. We have offices in Macon and Warner Robins, and the main things that we do as financial advisors is provide retirement planning advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. If you can't listen live, you can always visit our website at retirerelax.com and listen to the recordings and check out our special reports. We offer complimentary consultations to help you plan for a successful retirement. And we also provide educational seminars on estate and retirement planning in the community. So call us at the office if you're interested in having us speak at your group meeting. The office number again is 478-922-8100.
Okay, so back to the oil thing. So this is another article, and I don't have who this is from. But anyways, they say lower prices now won't lead to demand destruction, which can help shake out markets, and it also won't incentivize producers to open the taps. So if you lower the price of oil and what these oil producers are going to make, it's the opposite. So Biden, on one hand, is begging the oil producers to increase production to lower the prices. He's going to tap the strategic reserve to reduce the price. These things are not making sense. It's not logical.
I agree.
Goldman Sachs said that lower prices now will lead to strong demand and slow shale production, ultimately leading to a deficit in 2023. Further, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve will eventually need to be refilled. Clearview Energy Partners noted that this is the largest ever release by a factor of more than 3. The second largest was November's release.
And so when you're refilling the Strategic Reserve, you're taking money out of the commercial, out of the pipeline that feeds the gas to your car.
Right.
So the prices are going to stay up for a protracted time.
So Evercore ISI called the U.S. decision to once again tap the reserve akin to beating a dead horse. Simply put, it will fall short of absorbing the lost supply from Russia. So he's just grasping at straws because there's an election coming up. And I think that about sums up what's going on. So here's how the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve works. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but it's very interesting to me. The release of 1 million barrels of crude oil every day for the next 6 months from the reserve is the largest such release in the United States stockpile history. It marks the third time, we already said that, in 6 months. Why was this Strategic Petroleum Reserve created? The U.S. created the SPR in 1975 after an Arab oil embargo led to a spike in gasoline prices and damaged the U.S. economy. U.S. presidents have tapped the stockpile to calm oil markets during war or when hurricanes hit oil infrastructure along the Gulf Coast. The reserve currently holds 586 million barrels in dozens of caverns in 4 heavily guarded locations on the Louisiana and Texas coasts. Seems like Louisiana is a bad place to have this, with all the hurricanes and garbage that go on down there. But I guess that's where it's all pumped, and so that's where it's easy to go.
That's where the big salt caverns are located.
Yeah. The country also maintains small heating oil and gasoline reserves in the U.S. Northeast. How does SPR oil reach the market? Because of its location near big U.S. refining or petrochemical centers, the SPR can ship as much as 4.4 million barrels per day. It can take only 13 days from the presidential decision for the first oil to enter the country's market. Under a sale, the Energy Department usually holds an online auction in which energy companies bid on the oil. Under the swap, oil companies take crude but are required to return it plus interest. Prior to the last 6 months, U.S. presidents have authorized emergency sales from the SPR 3 times, most recently in 2011 during a war in Libya, an OPEC member. Sales also took place during the Gulf War in 1991 and after Hurricane Katrina. So these were catastrophic global events that caused us to release reserves, and today we're doing it as a feel-good measure. That's where I am concerned about how we are spending money and throwing money around and making all these decisions to make people feel good. This is not what the government should be doing. They're way out of line, as far as I'm concerned. What other countries have strategic reserves? The U.S. is responsible for half of the world's strategic petroleum reserves. So we're responsible for bailing everybody else out, yet we're doing it just to get the price of gas down.
Right.
I want to just scream.
Go ahead. 30 seconds of just outright screaming.
Cows.
But, Sherri, there's another question. There's another question that's always, people always ask is, when they see the price of a barrel of oil, that's going up and down every day, or especially when it's going down, and they don't see the pump prices dropping, they wonder why that is. And we have a good article here that explains that. And let's see here. This is I don't remember where I got this one either. I think it came off Yahoo Finance. Anyway, coming off the heels of the pandemic during which demand for crude oil dramatically decreased, oil supplies were already low to start 2022 because they just weren't pumping as much. Inventories were already 10% below the normal, which is a big number. Now you throw the Ukraine conflict in, and you have supply disruptions. You end up with higher crude cost. A barrel of crude oil currently trades at 99.27, which I looked up last night, which is a 48% increase from the 76 price tag at the beginning of 2022. And the Friday's barrel price was 8% below the peak of $123 earlier this week. For consumers, that jumpiness raises an important question. Why does it seem like gasoline prices rise in lockstep with crude, but oil falls in lockstep with crude oil prices, but fall much slower? And the answer, according to McNally, is that oil prices move in real time based on the trading, while gas prices are tethered to the price the station paid to acquire the inventory. Oil prices jump because traders speculate on its value in real time, and with uncertainty plaguing the world in the oil production and distribution, the refinement prices are likely to continue to wobble. And the question is whether we're going to sanction Russia or we're going to stick to it. Will countries continue to buy the crude oil? And there's a lot of things that go into that one price for a barrel of oil. But gas stations, they buy a 27 to 35 day amount of gasoline for the pumps. And so they're locked into these prices. They're not trading real time like the barrel of oil is. And their margins are very, very thin. So when they pay for a 27-day supply of oil, they're locked into that price for a long time. And Sherri, that may be why we see gas prices on one side of the road that are different than the other side.
Yeah.
So,
and it probably depends on whether you're part of a franchise and you
right.
can get a discount.
Yep. And if you're looking at the gas pumps and you're seeing diesel at almost $5 a gallon, that's because we in the United States do not use as much diesel as Europe does, and that's where we ship most of our diesel. So anyway, that's the back of a napkin explanation of gas prices and why they don't jump around like the oil you see in the stock market.
So I have one more article. I'm sorry I have to talk about this, about the oil reserves. So Biden said he would also invoke the Defense Production Act, a Korean War-era national security mobilization law, to boost domestic output of minerals used in batteries for electric vehicles and other clean energy technology. And he called on Congress to pass a new law that would push oil companies to drill faster when they have leases on federal lands. But here's the quandary. Down here it says, the best thing the White House can do right now is remove barriers to investment in American energy production and infrastructure. This is the leader of the American Petroleum Institute. Unfortunately, today we heard mixed signals about developing affordable, reliable, and secure American natural gas and oil. Charging companies for unused leases would add to rising costs that oil producers face because of inflation and supply chain delays. And this is a chief executive of Texas Pacific Land. Basically, Biden has hampered the entire industry because he wanted everybody to go green.
That's right.
And so he threw down on them with all of these laws and extra things that hampered them from being able to do. And now he's turning around and saying that they got to increase production. If you don't understand this, go look it up, because this guy's an idiot. I mean, freaking idiot.
Well,
sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about making you feel good.
Get him, girl.
It's all about, oh, wow, I'm doing this for you. I'm helping you, when he's the one who screwed it up in the first place.
Well, he's got people up there whispering in his ear on how to do things, and he's listening to them and pandering, as we've seen since his election. So
I hope I don't get written up for that comment I just made.
There's a guy in a dark suit and dark sunglasses out here.
If you're in compliance and you're listening to this, forgive me. Anyways, the newest drawdown could leave the country with fewer options going forward if the Russia-Ukraine conflict gets worse or prices rise further. At current import and export rates, a drawdown of this size would leave the U.S. reserves with not much more than 90 days of supply required under our membership in the International Energy Agency. We're liable for the world. We're part of this thing, like we're supposed to be protecting everyone, and we're doing it to lower gas prices for 5 cents. 5 cents.
Well, it depends on who you talk to. They can get up to 50, but yeah.
The government has
your point.
The government has no further SPR bullets. The bank analyst Michael Tran said in a note to clients, and that might come with only little short-term gain for U.S. consumers. Several industry leaders and analysts said the amount of oil the Biden administration plans to release could reduce gas prices by 5 to 10 cents in the short term, with little long-term impact. Russia is a problem that is too big for the SPR to solve. Said Bob McNally, who served as an energy advisor to President George Bush and is now an analyst at Rapidan Energy Group. Gasoline prices are mainly influenced by crude oil prices, and crude oil prices are going to go higher as long as the Russia risk remains and intensifies. The government would also need to buy new crude eventually to replenish its reserves, which could itself cause prices to go up, because you have to replace this stuff. It's not magic.
Right. It's going to protract. It's going to make the problem bigger than it is.
Yes.
Right now.
It is a loan of oil to the market rather than a new source of supply. This is the guy ahead of commodities at Investec, noting the U.S. would need to replenish its spent reserves at a later date, driving up prices for longer-dated oil contracts. Mm-hmm. And you're having prices going up. So we're using oil that was cheap, that we bought it for low prices, that is in the reserve, that we are spending, that we're going to have to replace at double the price.
That's right.
Nobody that goes to Kroger would do this. If you use coupons and you pay attention to prices, this would not have been a choice that you made if you're President of the United States. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had a great idea. She said we should have some sort of rebate or direct payment to consumers. That's more appealing than taking money out of gas out of the reserves or oil.
Let's just open our checkbook one more time.
Let's just go throw some more money around it, everybody, and help them out because the oil prices are high. That's her.
Well, Sherri, I understand.
Save me.
Sherri, I understand you're hopping mad. You're just hopping mad. I can see it. So let's talk about
something fun?
A pet bunny, okay?
Yeah,
how's that?
Change the subject.
How's that for a good segue?
Yeah.
All right, down the rabbit hole. Why a pet bunny may not be the best Easter gift.
Go figure.
Animal experts say many rabbits end up in shelters once owners realize how difficult it is to care for them. If you're thinking about getting a pet bunny this Easter, local animal experts say you may want to opt for a chocolate kind instead. And let's see, Hillsborough County Pet Resource Center, Pasco County Animal Services, these are in Florida, and the Humane Society of Tampa are teaming up to educate people about the
rabbit ownership.
The rabbit ownership.
That's right there.
I know. Well, spit it out, Randy. Spit it out. And it's an effort to stop the overpopulation issue. Every year, rabbit sales spike around Easter.
Who would do this?
It's been ever since I was a kid. I've
never even heard of this.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, yeah. And
my brother had them, but he raised them to eat them.
And those little chicks, you see people go get them, and they give them, and then they end up in the road.
I don't know how you can.
Every year, rabbit sales spike around Easter, but once new owners realize how difficult and expensive proper care for the rabbit is, those pets end up in a shelter. Unfortunately, many of these pets are also released into the wild where they're unable to fend for themselves. Well, you're thinking, oh, it's a wild animal, it's a bunny. You know,
it's been in a cage.
Well, the thing is, if it's a wild animal, why did you buy it for your child to start with? Anyway, let's see. They say here.
A few things to consider before adopting a rabbit.
One, they are not cuddly. Rabbits generally do not like to be picked up or cuddled. I had a rabbit when I was a kid.
You did?
A whole cage of them, and we were raising them for eating.
That's what my brother did. He raised them because they're cheap food.
They were tasty. They're expensive. Between food, bedding, veterinary care, and grooming supplies, rabbits can cost hundreds of dollars per year. They can be destructive. You let them hop around your house, they're going to chew the molding off your door frames. They require specialized care.
Rabbits you have to potty train them if
right.
you can.
They require specialized care. Rabbits need daily exercise, so you have to take them to aerobics. Special food should be. Anyway, there's a lot of things that go into. There's a lot of things that go into.
They have to be vaccinated.
Yep.
It says good luck on the litter box training, and they could live up to a decade or more. So it's not like, and they're going to have medical issues.
That's like people who go get turtles for.
Aren't turtles easy?
I mean, they don't run away, but fast at least. You know, I had a friend that was an airline pilot and carried the turtle on every plane. It's like a little box turtle. I was like,
why?
I don't know. Attached.
Is it a comfort animal or something?
I guess,
had anxiety.
Had a little orange vest on it.
But just the pet thing has gotten way out of control. I mean, everybody's getting all these pets, and it costs a lot of money, and it becomes like your child anymore. It's not like when I grew up on the farm, we had pets for a purpose, and they herded cattle, and they barked when somebody came up the driveway, and they did stuff like that, and when they never came in the house. But now pets are replacing children.
Well, they're a lot cheaper than children, and they don't talk back.
That's true. I wouldn't get a rabbit.
They don't wreck your car at 15.
Oh, my gosh. I've never known anybody to buy a rabbit for Easter. That's ridiculous.
Well, you know, I've seen people go buy the little chicks. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, you know, that goes on like this.
Hopefully you have a chicken farm.
Right.
So you already did that article, and we've already talked about COVID spending being a big racket.
Well, this is just another. Did you talk about this one? This is just another example of the President Biden wanting to open the checkbook once again. The President Biden members of Congress applauded themselves for passing the $1.5 trillion spending bill last month. Now they're demanding a COVID spending encore. Congress, please act. You have to act immediately, Mr. Biden pleaded this week. The consequences of your inaction are severe. His administration warns that the monoclonal antibodies and antivirals will soon run out, and the booster shots might not be available this fall if Congress doesn't provide more money. But we just said there's only 16,000 people nationwide in the hospital, so do we really need this?
No.
You know, okay. His pleas would be more credible if his administration hadn't spent the first 2 months of this year pressuring Congress to pass the Build Back Better, the election law changes, and semiconductor subsidies. And they still have yet to account for all of this money.
Yeah.
So if you're applauding another spending or expecting another spending spree from Congress, you know, you need to think twice about this because our economy, our country cannot take much more debt.
So what happened to the $1.9 trillion for COVID Democrats that they passed last March? Most went to transfer payments, including child tax credits, enhanced unemployment benefits, and stimulus checks. About a quarter subsidized state and local budgets and schools. Democrats appropriated a mere $80 billion for public health, only $16 billion which was available for vaccines and therapies. Yet the administration has refused to detail how it has spent the public health money, as well as how much remaining money could be repurposed for vaccines and therapies. Senate Republicans don't want to give the administration more money until it accounts for how it spent the previous money, which I agree with.
Yep.
All righty. So this next one I find very fascinating. So the House, so we go back and forth on this a lot as a country, but the House passed a bill this week to federally decriminalize marijuana. I'm not for it or against it. I've never used it. I know that it's stronger than ever that it used to be. I had a lot of friends in college that smoked it all the time. I just have no opinion on it.
Well, yeah, my concern is like I think it was 4 people from the Citadel or West Point or something down at spring break this last year. You know, they smoked marijuana. It was laced with fentanyl and died.
Yeah.
You know, maybe if it's government regulated, you know,
it would stop that. But you're still going to have a black market.
That's what I'm saying. You're still going to have a black market because they're going to still want to make money and they're going to drive the price of it down. So, but it is concerning to me that so many people in business are foregoing the drug test just because they need bodies to work.
We're going to get to that in a second.
Okay.
So let me talk about this one first. So the bill will prevent federal agencies from denying federal workers security clearances for cannabis use. It will allow the VA to recommend medical marijuana to veterans living with PTSD, plus gains revenue by authorizing a sales tax on marijuana sales, which I think is probably the bigger deal, is what they could make off of this. The bill also expunges the record of people convicted of nonviolent cannabis offenses. It can result in difficulty finding employment, difficulty finding housing, denial of access to federal benefits, denial of financial aid, and denial of the right to vote. I don't know about that. That's why we're dealing with this. That's the explanation they're using. I think it's all about taxes. Senate Democrats have a similar legalization bill in the upper chamber, but neither that bill nor the House-passed MORE Act is expected to clear the 60-vote threshold for passage in the Senate. A similar bill was passed in December of 2020, but it died last month before it made it to the floor for a vote. So what do you think? I'd be really curious to hear what our listeners think, especially people that are in the medical world, about decriminalizing marijuana. The number here is 478-742-0940. We have about 10 minutes left of the show. But so I look at Colorado, where our daughter lives, and when we were out there visiting with her, she took us to a dispensary so we could see it, and it's extremely well run and well managed and extremely secure. And so you walk in the door, and you give them your driver's license, and then you take a seat, and they call you by number, and they escort you behind a locked door where you can go. Well, you can talk about it. You went back there with her. So
I did.
I sat in the waiting room.
Yeah, it was very interesting because of the security, it was so tight, bulletproof glass everywhere and everything. So, but they were very professional on everything that they did, and I was really kind of amazed at how nice it was inside the place. But I don't know what else to say on it besides it was just a very well-run organization out there.
But you go in the back and you point at what you want, and then they escort you back through the locked door, and then you sit on a bench and they call your name when you're ready.
They take you back there.
They get a phone call,
and then they'll educate you on what each one of the different brands are.
Okay, go to the phones. You're on with Randy and Sherri. Good morning.
Hey, I had a quick question. Is the Georgia refund thing real?
Georgia refund.
The $250, $350, $500 coming back.
When you do your taxes?
No. I read online or somewhere that Governor Kemp signed a thing that said if you filed taxes this year, they were giving back $250 or something.
Your mom said this on the phone last night when we were talking to her. She said something about getting an extra $250 back.
Hers was at the federal level because they
the tax or that other thing.
I'm looking at it right now, and it says here, let's see, special state income tax refunds paid out. Bear with me while I go through this. House Bill 1302 will give a $250 refund to single filers, $375 to a single adult who is a head of household with dependents, and $500 for a married couples filing jointly. The refund would only be paid to people who filed tax returns in both 2020 and 2021. So it does look like there's some validity to what you're telling us.
So is there an income limit?
Let's see here. I
wonder if it's only for certain income tranches.
I do not see any income requirements on this.
We'll have to look that up.
Okay. Well, thank y'all very much for taking the call. I appreciate it.
Yay, thanks for calling in. So you have no opinion on legalizing pot?
My personal opinion is I don't really use it, but I don't want anyone driving around me on a fork truck that uses it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a
really good point.
Yep. So
I agree with that.
Hopefully they'll treat it the same way they do alcohol.
Yeah,
right.
I hope.
Yeah. Thank you for calling. Have a great weekend. But I just realized I bet I'm not supposed to be talking about this on the radio show because we're not supposed to. But then no, wait. I called home office and asked if we could. If we could invest in this, and they told me that we could, so I can't talk about it.
But we're not investing in it.
Right.
We're just talking about the impacts of it.
Might have screwed up a second time today. Anyways, so positive drug tests among U.S. workers hit a 2-decade high. This is interesting to me. So fewer employers are testing applicants for marijuana because they're grappling with a nationwide labor shortage. The percentage of working Americans testing positive for drugs hit a 2-decade high last year, driven by an increase in positive marijuana tests, as businesses might have loosened screening policies. Of the more than 6 million general workforce urine tests that Quest Diagnostics, one of the country's largest drug testing labs, screened for marijuana last year, 4% came back positive, an increase of more than 8% year over year. So what's happening is companies are choosing to stop doing drug tests because they're so desperate for employees. But it's a problem if you're hiring someone to run heavy equipment, and they might do something and hurt themselves and then sue you. So you kind of have to run drug tests on some people. In Michigan, where recreational marijuana was legalized in 2018, many employers didn't loosen their requirements on pre-employment drug tests for a few years until just recently. And the employment service that they use to hire people through are warning them, you really should continue to do the drug testing. But the companies are like,
we need the people.
Yeah, we need the people. But they say for certain positions, such as those involving heavy machinery, they screen applicants in Michigan, at least.
Right.
It's become so casual. Marijuana use has become so casual among some young workers that the employment agency said some potential workers have shown up at her office smelling like the drug, and one worker who was placed by them at a company got fired after using a vape pen in the workplace. The firm has had to counsel some workers on what is appropriate to do at work. This is a huge deal all the way around because a lot of kids, I've never worked. They've been playing video games and going to high school, and then they go out there to get a job,
right.
And they don't realize there are boundaries and things like how you dress and how many tattoos you have on your face or how many piercings you have. They don't understand what employers are looking for.
It's a brave new world out there.
It's a whole new world. The nose ring lately has just gotten to me. At the gym, it's like almost everyone has a nose ring that they look like those ones that we used to put in our cows.
I know.
So that you could tie the cow up.
Yep.
And they're huge. They're not like tiny. They're like these big things. I can't get over the nose, the one that's in the middle of the nose. The ones on the side are not so bad to me, but the ones in the middle, all I can think of are those cows.
You're such a prude.
I am. In the hospitality industry, many employers have already stopped screening potential employees for drugs before the pandemic, according to one rep from a hotel management company, including in Georgia, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to hire anybody. The elimination of marijuana screening is one of the most common ways companies are seeking to expand their pool of eligible workers. It goes on and on and on.
Hey, let me go back to what the caller called in about.
You find something else?
Refund. Yeah. This is House Bill 1302, if you want to go look it up. And they say here that people who have already filed their 2021 taxes, which are due April 18th without an extension, will get money back in a separate payment later. People who haven't filed yet may see the money applied to whatever refund that they're going to get, depending on how quickly the state Department of Revenue and the tax preparers can make the changes. So anyway, even if you've already filed your taxes, you're going to get a separate check. So that's a good thing.
CPAs have got to be losing their minds.
I could not do that job.
Every year they change the rules in the middle of tax filing.
Right.
And so you've already done your taxes, and now you got one more thing to add to it. Your software has to be updated again.
Right.
I couldn't handle it.
We love our CPAs, and
God bless them.
God bless them. The job they do. I don't know how they stay sane, because every time we go over and see ours, they're just the happiest people. I mean,
I know.
On the
I don't know
planet.
I don't know what kind of medication they're on.
Marijuana. They have a smoke room in the back.
Yeah, they're always really nice and friendly, and they don't look stressed out. It's like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know how you're doing what you're doing. So we only have a couple of minutes left. So why don't you go back and tell people who we are and what we do and all that kind of good stuff.
All right.
Well, I don't want to start a new article because I can't.
Right. Anyway, guys, we we really do appreciate you guys tuning in to us today.
I'm sorry about my rant earlier, but I couldn't help myself.
You're kind of cute when you get on a rant like that, You've been listening to Randy and Sherri Goss live ranting all morning long. We have offices in Macon and Warner Robins, and we are financial advisors, and we provide retirement planning and advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. If you can't listen to the show live, you can always tune in to our website at retirerelax.com. And you can find the radio shows on there. And as far as I know right now, they're all up to date. And, if you are looking for some special reports, information on retirement or
what
name some special reports, Social Security, whatever. There's some great reports
out there. I'll tell you
the one
that my favorite one is, can I afford to retire?
Yes.
Because it walks you through exactly the process that I will do. If you come to see me personally, it's exactly what I will do with you.
Well, we offer free consultations if you would like to come in and talk about your plan for retirement. So, and we can also do educational seminars in the community. So call us at the office at 922-8100. And you can always reach us at support@rfmoney.com.
Yeah, our website has a lot of great information on it, but literally that special report, Can I Afford to Retire, has a tracking page so that you can track your spending for a month and see whether you can really live within that budget of what your retirement income is going to be. So lots of helpful stuff, when to take Social Security or how to maximize your Social Security benefits. All of it's there for free, and we don't track you. If you come to our site, we don't even know who you are or that you went there. It's all secret.
Anyway, going to be a beautiful day. Y'all have a great weekend.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. Member FINRA SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. Investing is subject to risk, including loss of principal invested. No strategy can assure a profit against loss. Rosenberg Financial Group is located at 2517 Moody Road, Warner Robins, Georgia 31088, and can be reached at 478-922-8100.